Hi, I'm Paul Sanders. I've been a photographer all my working life. I now specialise in shooting black and white mindful photographs. Mindful photography is about what's present in front of me, what the connection I feel with the subject in front of me, whatever that subject is. And that can be landscape, still life. Although I don't do portraits very often, it can even extend to portraits and architecture. I shoot mainly black and white photographs because I enjoy the simplicity of black and white. I enjoy the light, the texture, the feel of the images. Photography for me is an emotional reconnection with the world that I live in. So today I'm here on behalf of Wex Photo Video to talk to you about mindfulness in photography and how photography has helped me reconnect with my own identity and the world around me, using photography as a vehicle to help me recover from my own mental health problems. So my career as a photographer really started almost from school. I knew I wanted to be a photographer from messing around with my dad's camera in the garden. And the downside with wanting to be a creative is that the school convinced me that I shouldn't be, or tried to convince me that I shouldn't be a photographer. They told me that I wasn't good enough, and that I couldn't be a photographer. And weirdly, in some ways, that sort of spurred me on, but it's also stuck with me. And I ended up working in news photography. I worked for local newspapers, regional papers, agencies, before ending up at Reuters, the international wire service, and then eventually the Times newspaper. I was made picture editor of the Times, and gradually the stress and the pressure of that job got to me, to the point that in 2011 I had a nervous breakdown, and I had a second breakdown in 2012 after I left the Times. There's a lot to be said for mental health support these days. There's a lot less stigma around the whole discussion of mental health, and the subject is much more open and approachable. Many people have become aware recently how fragile we are as people, despite the outward show of strength. Sometimes we push ourselves too hard, and in trying to overcome imposter syndrome, that was one of the things. I just kept working and working and working until eventually there was nothing left to work with. Following the breakdown, one of the things that got me back on track was my photography, and using photography as a way of seeing the simple beauty in the world, not trying to craft great pictures or win prizes or gain any kind of kudos or notoriety. It was just a visual exploration of the world that I lived in, the world that I occupied, and a world that I'd become disconnected from. I'd lost my identity completely. I defined myself by the job that I did, which many of us do. And we therefore lose touch with what we like. We almost become ashamed of what we like and what we don't like. And we mould our opinions to match those of people that we hope will be impressed by us, or like us, or employ us, or recognise our value. And all the while we're doing that, we lose sense of our own value. We lose our own self-respect and self-esteem. That's the thing that sort of starts to turn the screw, where you then start to push yourself harder, and gradually the wheels come off. After a short time, when I started photographing things, I noticed that my pictures weren't traditional in their composition or the way that I saw things. And I was talking to my therapist, who was incredibly visually aware, and she was explaining that a lot of people can use photography as a language to help them communicate their problems. A lot of men, specifically kind of middle-aged men, don't talk about their issues. We almost feel ashamed. We feel weak. And to be able to express how I felt visually meant that I wasn't embarrassing myself, but by using the photographs and then talking about the pictures, I could actually express exactly how I felt about myself and what I was going through without really referring to myself. And it was a fantastic team effort to get me to see this way. Having started to understand that that's what I was doing with my photography, was expressing my personal disconnection with the world, I started to use photography to reconnect. And since then, I've used photography mindfully every day. I don't put pressure on myself to achieve any great images. I just photograph things that catch my eye, things of mundane beauty. And I've started working with the likes of the charity Mind, specifically the West Kent side of Mind, to bring photography workshops to people suffering with quite severe mental health challenges. And the groups that we've done have, through very simple exercises, through looking at colour, feeling the texture of something, watching the movement of things, through these simple exercises, those people have been able to reconnect with their world, to the point that we actually had an exhibition. And some of the people involved have been suffering with agoraphobia. And one lady in particular hadn't been out for 3 years, and yet she would use photography as her way of getting out of the house and re-engaging with the world. When people talk to you about the way they've used photography to get their life back, it's incredibly empowering, because I'm just a normal person. And a lot of people think that to have any impact, you have to be a celebrity. You have to be somebody famous, and you have to have a huge following. Even if you only reach out to one person, you're making a massive difference. And I think many of us underestimate the difference that we make on a daily basis to those who are struggling. Just a kind word, a little bit of support, taking the time to acknowledge somebody, or even just to ask a question, goes a long, long way to helping people understand that they're not alone in that battle. Photography is the ideal medium for working with your mental health. It crosses all the natural boundaries of language and culture, enabling people who might not speak the same language as you to understand exactly what you're saying. It is the universal language of today. And for that reason, I find it so easy to express myself through my photography without actually having to talk about myself. And that makes explaining or dealing with your problems so much easier, because creative expression is a great way of releasing the problems that you might be suffering with, and effectively exercising them from your body and mind. For working with mindful photography, the camera that you use doesn't really matter. You want something that is easy for you to use, easy for you to understand. You can start with just your smartphone. I shoot with a Fuji mirrorless system because I like to see the image that I'm going to get actually in the camera as I take it. And the advantage with the mirrorless camera is you don't have to worry about the exposure. Photography can be quite daunting for some people because it's classed as quite technical. Using a camera that matches your ability and gives you access to the features you need is the important thing. The camera can be a barrier to your photography, can be a barrier to creativity if you're worried about the settings. If you can work with a camera that's set up just as you like, it makes life so much easier. Not worrying about the kit is the biggest barrier in photography. Once you get past that, it's all about seeing, and seeing beauty in the world the way you see it. People often ask what mindful photography is. So in a nutshell, mindful photography is using every part of the experience that you're in to make a photograph. It's being completely present to what you're doing. It's not trying to look for perfection. It works more with imperfection than perfection. It celebrates the beauty of the most ordinary. It's really about awareness, total awareness, and that leads to a deeper sense of seeing with your subject. The types of people that might be interested in that are not only people who suffer with their mental health, but people who are looking for a deeper connection with their work. The retreats and workshops that I run are attended by all sorts of people, all different ages, who come to try and get a more personal connection with their photography, a deeper expression of their unique personality, if you like, and the way that they see the world. Because we are very conditioned now in a world so dominated by perfect visuals to only make photographs that other people like, and we sometimes forget the kind of images that we like, that we enjoy. It's really important that we have a legacy to leave behind us, to show the truth of our now, our moment. And that's what mindful photography is. It shows pictures of experiences of the present moment, of the now, of life with all of its warts and all. And it can just be, it can be textures. It can be photographing the way sounds make you feel. It can be photographing simple colours, simple patterns. And it can go a bit deeper. It can be about a connection with a landscape, or even light and shade. All of those things are things that we play with, that we experiment with. The most important approach, I feel, for anybody embarking on this sort of photography, and one that I encourage all of my workshop clients to do, is approach it with a childlike fascination. View everything with awe and wonder, and be excited by every aspect of your life. And that sounds a little bit weird, but if you start looking at all the bits and pieces that make up your life, you'll find them fascinating. Other people are fascinated by your life, but we tend to ignore it. We take our things for granted. We take everything around us for granted. We have a culture of, instant gratification. And, using a mindful approach to photography is much more about a slow appreciation of what we have, what we enjoy, what makes us us, what makes us unique. The moment that was sort of a catalyst for me for sharing my story came during a talk I was giving to a camera club. I was asked if I felt like a failure for leaving the Times, and I was able to honestly respond with the answer no. I actually felt more of a success for recognizing that I was doing something that was probably going to kill me, that was, although it had been a dream of mine to get that job, was actually more of a nightmare. And being able to step outside of the material success, the perceived success of working at such a high level for such a prestigious publication, I was able to turn to something that was emotionally and spiritually fulfilling. Something that enabled me to slowly recover from the burnout that I'd experienced, and something that gave me enormous pleasure. Finding happiness and contentment in something that you do is the key to leading a fulfilled life. And while the world demands that we are successful and we are high achievers, sometimes achieving great things doesn't lead you to have a great life. And allowing yourself, giving yourself permission to turn your back on the material demands of the world and find solace within is much more successful than earning lots of money, having a big house and a fancy car, but being really unhappy. So what's next for me? Well, the thing that I'm most passionate about is making my workshops more accessible. Photographic workshops are, by tradition, open to those people who've got disposable income, because they tend to be quite high cost. And it's not people who earn lots of money always that suffer with mental health problems. So I'm trying to launch a charity called My Mind's Eye with a colleague of mine off the back of the work that we've done with West Kent Mind, to make photographic workshops open to everybody, no matter what their financial circumstance. And that will be something that, if I can get it off the ground and get it going, I'll be really proud of. It's proving more difficult than I thought, but it's something that I'm rising to the challenge and really enjoying it. To find out more about the workshops and retreats that I do, please look at my website, which is discoverstill.com. And thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to watch this. I really appreciate it. I'm also very grateful to Wex for letting me be part of this project.
If you're struggling with your mental health, or you just feel like you need a bit of a chat, then visit mentalhealth.org.uk/yourmentalhealth/getting help. We'll pop a link in the description or the comments wherever you're watching this. But on that site, you'll be able to find links to tons of different people who'll be able to help. If you're feeling alone, just remember you're not. If you need help, reach out.